they have a much better expertise than I do on military issues, even though my dad's in the Army, Aberdeen, Maryland. But these guys have a much better grasp of the needs of the military aspect. So I'm going to be partnering with them quite a bit and basically relying on them quite a bit as advisors. They're going to sort of keep me up to date with the sort of the 30,000-foot view. But go ahead and take it away, Erhan and Mehdi, and go ahead and take me off screen until I introduce Molly, Brian.
Hey, thanks so much, Mark. Good afternoon. It's great to see my battle buddy Erhan here. So, my name's CAPT Mehdi Akacem. I'm a naval officer and a father. Since I'm on active duty, and as you can see, I'm coming to you from outside the Pentagon, I do need to make clear that I'm doing this in my off-duty time, but I just left work, so I'm in my uniform. And any opinions I'm about to share here are my own and should not be construed as in any way representing the official policy of the Department of Defense or the Department of the Navy. Additionally, this is a nonpartisan issue, though we are privileged to have lawmakers participating in this conference. We're not here for any partisan campaign or partisan issue. I think it's axiomatic that taking care of kids and ensuring that the parent-child relationship is protected in all its contexts is in no way a politically charged issue, though it requires contact with politics. So, as I said, I'm Mehdi Akacem, call sign Metro in the United States Navy. You know, I've been in uniform for 30 years, flying from aircraft carriers for combat missions over Iraq, Afghanistan, the Korean Peninsula, the South China Sea. I've also had the privilege of serving as a Navy test pilot. In my training or operational combat experiences in uniform ever could have prepared me for the toughest battle I've ever faced, not in the skies, but in family court. Erhan, over to you.
Yeah, Mehdi, thank you so much. And Mark, thanks so much again for putting this together. I also served for approximately 21 years, most of it as a Green Beret with deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan and West Africa. I currently work at the Department of Justice in the Civil Division as a trial attorney. And like Mehdi said, this is my own personal position and a passion project of mine from what I experienced in the military and what I see a lot of service members going through. And as a result of that, I stood up my own nonprofit, Warrior Family Advocacy, and just in the last few months was contacted by Mehdi and had the opportunity to meet Mark over the phone here. Here's some of our insights as to what service members are going through every single day, service and family court, and how they're being negatively impacted by the family court process.
Yeah, so military-connected children and their service member or veteran parents face several unique barriers to justice in family law, largely, in my opinion, profound mismatch of expectations. Family law is traditionally a state and local issue, but for a military family, nearly every dimension of life, and therefore every best interest factor that could be implicated in state is deeply regulated by federal law or military policy. For example, for a military family living on base, again, I'm trying to speak inclusively of single parents as well. But for a family living on base, your income, housing, childcare, schools, summer camps, medical care, access to medication, food and housewares shopping, public safety and emergency services, recreation opportunities, even your worship are federal services, federal programs afforded because of your contact with the military. One other indication of the scope and sweep of I don't want to call it intrusion, but the innervation of family life for a military family by federal programs is the Church Service and the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, two very important, sometimes under-recognized research arms of the legislative branch that work directly for our elected officials in Congress. They collectively put out over 200 reports and investigations a year on these various issues that affect military family life. So I really want to, with that, step to of these barriers that we talk about is damaging stereotypes. Service members are idolized or as heroes or stigmatized as broken very frequently, sometimes even remarked as dangerous. PTSD is constantly over-associated with violence in the courtroom, despite clear evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, Mehdi just hit the nail on the head. We see PTSD leveraged all the time in family court. There's just an assumption that there's only two types of veteran, either the one that's diagnosed with PTSD or the one that just hasn't been diagnosed. right? And that's just an absolute ridiculous statement, but it's the truth nonetheless. And so the Cohen's Veterans Group, which is a leading veterans organization that does surveys of the American population to garner what is the general consensus of Americans with respect to military. They come back every year. 2/3 of Americans believe most veterans have PTSD. Let that sink in. 2/3 of our population think that most veterans have PTSD. And then 1 in 4 believe that PTSD manifests itself in violent behavior. These are falsehoods, but this is what the general population believes. And the general population is what fills our family courts, the judges, the attorneys, the licensed clinical social workers, the guardian ad litems. So it's only natural that a service member, when they find themselves in the family court construct, are dealing with these biases.
Yeah, so imagine being denied parenting time, not because of your actions, but because some family court professional assumes that you might someday snap. That's not justice, it's bias. Erhan, why don't you take us through the second penalty?
Yeah, the second one, and this is one that's reported quite a bit by service members, it's called the PCS penalty, permanent change of station. Like Mark alluded to earlier, service members are moving. It could be as often as every 24 months, every 36 months, sometimes shorter duration. And there is really no specific program within the Department of Defense that allows a service member who is going through a contested custody agreement or actually in the midst of divorce where child custody is one of the merits that's before the court to say, look, I want to be stabilized until this can be handled, and even providing some time after the hearing so that new norm can be established, just does not exist.
Yeah. So, for example, a civilian parent can say no to a job transfer. A military parent can't, and that's not to make light of the real life complications that civilian parents have. Nor are we either of us intending to portray, military life as more important. But it is a sacrifice. And while I think the understanding military life involves sacrifice, it shouldn't involve child's perspective, sort of having your relationship with one of your parents be sacrificed because they chose to serve. That's not a decision that's appropriate in any way, and it's certainly not something a child can understand or have any say in. Family courts often treat PCS as a choice, and simply put, it's not. They assume you moved away. In reality, it was an order, and even if they don't bias, it's often looked at as, well, that's just complicated. Too bad. Erhan, over to you.
Yeah, great. We see that a lot. A lack of understanding within the court system of how the military operates. And so they view a PCS as a discretionary choice on the part of the service member. It absolutely is not. But you don't have the time of day in court to be able to explain this background, very, very strong process in the military that everybody is beholden to. Judges want stability for their children, and that's a good thing. But they assume stability means staying in the same jurisdiction and generally means staying with the non-parent. And so that's why the active duty parent start off with a presumption of not getting custody or very little. And that obviously sets conditions for losing connection. Again, there is no system within the Department of Defense that allows a service member to pause or delay a PCS. The Air Force, just 2 years ago, said, we will take an existing child custody arrangement consideration that not be impacted by other needs of the Air Force. That's monumental, but it's still far, far cry from what we need for service members.
That's right. And even though the force has had success with that policy, unfortunately, the other branches have taken up. We've seen service members leave the military just to stay near their kids. That risks career progression and income. Obviously, it's also bad for national security. Lose professional service member, their role, their capacity is everyone is needed on the team. So lose someone because they're faced with this choice of continue to serve or continue to be frankly, I don't think anyone could fault a service member for seeking the uniform behind in favor of their child. And when service members don't leave, again, it's often either explicitly or impugned or implied as some sort of abandonment. Ironically, despite any presumption that frequent military moves are harmful for children, numerous studies show the opposite is in fact true. The measured adversity of military family life is a protective factor for military kids who in general have better life outcomes than their comparable non-military peers across many important measures. It's tough to go to 3 or 4 different schools before. It also encourages kids to become resilient, to expand their social ability, potentially travel the world as part of that military lifestyle. In an intact family, that's generally seen as a good thing, but as soon as there's conflict between now separated parents, it's pretty easy to opt out, those otherwise virtues of military life and the experience that a kid can gain from them. The other important thing is that military kids choose to serve at a much higher rate than their peers who may not have grown up with any close family connection to the military service. So in a very real sense, the well-being of America's military-connected children is crucial to our nation's future security. Erhan, over to you. I think we may have to go soon, but we've got one last important point to cover.
You can, Erhan.
Yeah, I wanted to say that one of the things that we deal with a lot and really impacts how custody determinations impact service members is a subcomponent of the military, an administrative hearing known as the Incident Determination Committee. It is, in essence, a child service and family welfare service component that exists in each of the branches. And unfortunately, it does not have procedural due protections that we're accustomed to in civil and criminal proceedings. And so allegations of abuse, either domestic or against a child, are many times asserted in an effort to let the accusation, which will get its substantiation in the administrative hearing, known as an IDC, Incident Determination Committee, and then transfer that to family court, leveraged quite a bit with increasing. And so that's what to advocate for is for the military to focus on that administrative hearing process and put in additional procedural due process protections, or divest from it completely. The IDC, It's a big problem, and we need to get some to get advocates, like I said, to either divest from it or add additional procedural due protections. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Mark.
We do need to move on, but anybody, if you're a military member, please send me an email. Once again, it's startmark@yahoo.com. So mark@yahoo.com. The subject line, put in all caps, military shared parenting. Put it in all caps because I get like 600-700 emails a day. I'll never see it if you don't. All caps, put shared parenting military. Put the name, your email, your phone number, your current address, what military you serve in, and we're going to be putting together a military team over the next month or so. So